Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. Morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. It's a bit dull in Shoreham today.
It's a dullish in South London as well.
So how's your week been then?
Well, I'm not going to talk about the summit in this first section, but it's been dominated by the summit. And we had two 11-hour days on Saturday and Sunday, which went fantastically well, but consequently, a little bit of exhaustion over that. And Monday was the most impossible day ever. It was the day that Mitzi was supposed to be moving house, and it was pouring with rain, and a friend came round to help me. A friend came round to help me get her in the carrier, and we blew it. She escaped through the lock cat flap, and I had to cancel the courier, which cost me £59 for an abortive trip. There was no news from my gazumper. A cleaner came and cleaned everything except what I wanted cleaning. I broke my glasses and I discovered that my solicitor was away on 2 weeks holiday that they hadn't told me about. So Monday was a very difficult day. Tuesday, everything complete turnaround. Found a new pair of glasses down the chemist for $7.99. I'll tell you the story and who and what's impressed about how I solved the cat, but suffice to say we solved the cat. I phoned the cleaning agency and they're sending a new person today for an hour to restore what they didn't get right on Monday. And I got an email first thing yesterday morning from the gazumper saying that she'd got the money and she'll be confirming it, showing me that, proving that to me in writing later in the week.
Oh, thank God for that. So I'm glad there's...
What, 24 hours, Nicola, 24 hours. Do not judge your life in too short a time window, because it doesn't tell you the whole truth.
Yeah, it's like Neil said, don't judge a place unless you've been there 4 seasons. Don't judge a week unless you've been through 4 days, perhaps.
Don't judge a week by Monday when it's pouring with rain and everything goes wrong.
Yeah. Well, I've got a sad, funny story to tell you about Monday. But yeah, I too have been. I didn't think it was going to be that difficult because we were in our own homes. We were. We had all our creature comforts around us. We weren't on video. I thought it was going to be a doddle, but the technology was, it was okay. It was okay, and I got past a couple of sticky bits. But what I learned about myself is under panic, I tend to just click things frantically.
Well, actually, I thought you did very well. Obviously, in an ideal world, we wouldn't have wanted the glitch at 8 o'clock on the first morning. But the fact is, you solved it. The rest of Saturday went without hitch. There were a few hitches on Sunday, but they didn't matter.
Yeah.
After people got over that first panic on the Saturday morning, there was no more panic when there were hitches. I don't think, all things considered, giving it live, I don't think that was an issue at all. I really don't. But I do want to talk later on in project updates about how I would do it differently next time.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't think. But about 11 hours, that's what we did. We did 8 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night. And I tell you what was really interesting to me is that I thought this is going to be a bit of a drag. We've got to sit at our desks for 11 hours on Saturday and Sunday and listen to something we've already heard. But actually, it wasn't in the least.
No, absolutely. Mine was slightly complicated by the fact I had to keep moving my car because something happens to Shoreham when it's raining. People come out in their cars and they take up all the parking spaces. And on Monday morning, I had to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning to go and move the car in the pouring rain. Couldn't get a parking space for love nor money. So, and really, I'd fed the car park so much over the weekend because I didn't have time in between calls in between speakers to go and drive around. So pouring with rain on Monday morning, couldn't get a parking space. So I thought I was going to go for a little drive across the beach because I haven't actually been past Steve's flat since he died. And I went along and I thought I'm just going to sit and park outside the flat just, and see if anyone's living there. Or I hoped I would see a family in there. And I didn't. It was pouring with rain. It was completely empty. It was up for sale. And I just felt really weird and sad. And And I thought, I'm going to get arrested if I sit here much longer. so I drove on. And then last night I had the overwhelming compulsion. And it's an interesting study, this, on human behaviour and rituals and how, burial and grieving rituals have grown up to help the living. Because I suddenly had this overwhelming compulsion to text his mum and say, what have you done with his ashes? Because I hadn't really even thought about that until now. And I thought she might have somewhere nice that I could go and sit. Not that I believe that he's still there or anything, but I thought anything's going to be better than sitting outside his flat on a Monday morning in the rain.
Yes.
And so that was last night. And this morning she texted me back saying, I know, we're thinking about him a lot too. He's actually under my telly at the moment. So I thought, well, I could hardly go and sit there.
No. So
I just saw how hilarious that was, that I'd given into a little bit of, not superstition, but I'd given into a little bit of the ritualistic side of it and thought I might get a bit of comfort. Well,
I tell you what, my dad is, his ashes are scattered on the pitch at Twickenham when they play rugby, and my brother goes there a lot. And he really takes comfort every time that the England team are playing over my father's ashes. And my mother's are dug in to the churchyard in Twickenham, where we're not a particularly religious family, but my brother got married there. Both of my parents' funerals were there. The three nieces and nephews were christened there. And they have a service every, what they call Holy Saturday, which is Easter Saturday, where we sing a couple of hymns outside in the garden. And anybody who's dug in the garden, there's a little place to go. And we went for 8 to 10 years. We stopped going now, but my brother went in Twickenham. Will go and sit on the bench in that churchyard and commune with his dead mother. And we discovered recently, quite fun this, that the person who wrote Mary Poppins is also buried in the same garden. That's quite fun.
So do you sing Mary Poppins now?
No, but the interesting thing, is it Mary Poppins? I think it is, yes. The interesting thing is the point you bring up, and you are even less religious than me, which it's nice to have somewhere to go. Obviously, ashes have long since disseminated. They've dug up the pitch of Twickenham a million times, but that's not the point. You have a place where you think there's a connection.
Yeah, there's significance, isn't it? We give humans a meaning-making machine. Since I discovered that, things life's got easier. But I've got to find. I think I'll have to find somewhere, and it can't. I mean, it could be the Grosvenor Poker Club in Brighton.
Although I agree with you that it is a bit tragic to sit outside his flat, I'm not surprised that you felt the urge to do that, and I don't think it's that strange actually. And I think it's quite a good sign, really. I moved into a rental house in Clapham once where the landlady's mother's ashes were in the wardrobe for the entire 2 years that I lived there.
Really? Oh no. Yeah. I don't know if I'd like someone I didn't know's ashes lurking about.
Well, they're just in a box. I didn't look inside. And also I had a client in Pimlico Green, and her mother's ashes sat on the shelf in the stockroom for a very long time.
Stockroom? I was thinking perhaps a matchbox full on the mantelpiece, but I don't know.
I think people bring the ashes home, and then they can't quite make up their minds what they're going to do or when they're going to do it.
Yeah. So anyway, I think she said she's going to scatter them in the sea or where he used to run, but I'm not sure if I want to get involved in that. So,
well, you've got to be very careful with the wind direction when you're scattering. Remember, otherwise you end up with a mouthful. Nicola, my friend, who you met last week, her father loved horse racing, so his ashes are scattered at a nice little local race course near you. I can't remember its name. I can't remember its name. Maybe Goodwood, something like that. One of famous little South Downs, south of England racecourse. And they've got a whole procedure there where you can have lunch, and it was on a race day. They all went to the races and scattered his ashes before it all started.
Now that's a business opportunity, isn't it? Ritual, remembrance lunches and ash scattering.
Yeah.
I thought I might put him under the olive tree in the garden to remember the.
Well, I think that's nice too. The other thing you can do is because you can ask the mother for a scoop.
Yes, a scoop of.
Yes, because that's what people do. So one of my friends, she's half of him was in England and half of him was in Vancouver, where he lived for an awful long time and had a lot of friends. So there was a little procedure in the park there.
Yeah, I thought the olive tree would be nice because it would remember our Greek Odyssey last year, which was funny and sad and fun all at the same time.
Well, I'll tell you what we must do later, you and I. Must take a picture of our respective olive trees, because I've got a fantastic one that began life in a pot outside my front door and is now in the middle of my lawn and is massive. I'm really proud of my olive tree.
They're lovely olive trees. They go silver when the leaves turn around.
Yes, nice.
So there we go. So that's my funny story from the week. But yeah, I did have a little bit of the adrenaline come down on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah. I remember you used to get that in the old money gym days, and I've had a bit of that this week as well. It's all that build up, then the delivery, then isn't it?
What now? Yes.
Mm.
So what's fueled your fire this week?
Well, the rave reviews we got from those who were with us on the weekend, and the pride that we created something worthwhile. And I've already had coaching conversations around the content of some of the calls.
Yes, that's. Oh, so okay. So you've actually been talking about some of the things that arose.
Yeah, I had a client yesterday who'd heard Joe Barnes particularly, and I was able to use that in a useful way and say, remember what she said at the end when she got quite hectoring with us about having a clear vision.
Yeah, and I enjoyed Joe Barnes because of the whole shift away from the internet marketing world and how she found it difficult to get her head around it, but once she did, she was off to the races.
It was so obvious for her, yes. And what she was really saying was that she really likes internet marketing as a tool, but she's much more interested in business. And I think that's probably, I was going to say probably true of you as well. It's a bit 50-50-ish with you, I think, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. So I'm not feeling very fueled this week, I'm afraid. So I couldn't think of it.
No fuel at all?
Well, not really, no. The thing that should be fueling my fire, which I'm going to talk about in project updates, is... well, I could talk about it now, because if we're going to talk about the summit and project updates, then it's a good spot. While we were live on Saturday, Zoltan from Serbia delivered my software in the form of a plugin already installed to a website. And then I went up on Monday. Actually, yeah, it sort of fueled my fire, but sort of didn't. I went up on Monday while I was unable for the second time to get a parking space. I had to go somewhere. I drove up to Kim's, who's back from her touring holiday of Scotland. She did something called the SC 500, which is a 500-mile journey all around the top of Scotland, staying in really nice historic hotels and things. And she said it was absolutely stunning. Her partner loves to drive, and they've got a gorgeous car, top of the range Mercedes. It's a bit like a limo inside. You can put neon lights on and all sorts. And anyway, they drove around Scotland, but she got back, and she's the actual person who inspired this software. And she only has an iPad. So I thought I'll whip up there and I'll watch her using the software on her iPad, because if she can use it, anyone can, because she's literally only just started to use an iPad within the last 3 or 4 years and hardly ever didn't use email before that, never went on Facebook, etc., etc. Anyway, it was a real revelation watching a real user use your software on a mobile device when I've only looked at it on a desktop. So I came back with about 10 amendments for Zoltan based on her actions. And I could just say, there is actually places you can go online to find, you can get it done for free. I think you can get 3 websites done for free a month, and they will actually send real users to your website. I've probably mentioned this before. They'll send real users to your website, and they will wander around your website recording their comments. And then you get to watch the video and hear their comments, which is really, really fascinating. But watching Kim use this live was a real exercise in usability, because she was expecting things to happen that I wouldn't have been. And I knew things that, for example, when she pinches her iPad to make it all bigger, and when she does that, the navigation bar disappears because it wasn't a mobile optimized navigation bar. So little things like that made a huge difference. She didn't know what to do next. If a window opened, she didn't know how to close it because she didn't know about the little cross in the corner of the window. Things that we completely take for granted. She didn't know that a burger, the 3 lines was a menu, just stuff like that. So that was really fascinating. I came back, and Zoltan, bless his heart, he's put a lot of those 10 things into action already. So it's already a better product than it was. And now I've got to go out and start marketing. I've got to talk to marketing people, not talk to them. I'm going to email them first. I'm going to set up a marketing process where I email people first, marketing people in the artisan food and gourmet food world, and invite them to list 3 items for free and see what they say. So that's interesting. I'm not exactly fueled by it, but...
well, you are. You're working on your new project has fueled you.
Yeah, I like a new project. Actually, that's a future client challenge of the week, actually, is how to... I'm determined not to start anything new for a year. Oh, that's going to be a challenge, isn't it? So, we can talk about that in a client challenge one time of the entrepreneurial disease of constantly having new ideas. probably discussed it before. So, next thing, client challenge.
Yeah, your recommendation after listening to Neil again over the weekend was we talked about perseverance, which was part of his core message. When to press on and when to pivot in your business.
Yeah, I think it's also when to know if you've got an idea worth persevering with. I think Neil's got experience under his belt, hasn't he, of starting businesses. So I think probably he's got an inner radar that tells him. I mean, think back to some of the business you've started a fair few businesses in your time. How did you feel when you had the ideas? How do you tell if it's a good enough idea to even start with, let alone persevere with? And you work with clients all the time who are coming up with new ideas. How do you?
Well, if we go back to the beginning of my own accountancy business, I had been working as a freelancer for a firm of accountants, and then I went solo. And I've told this story before about typing up the cards on an old-fashioned typewriter and sticking them through people's letterboxes. The fact that how did I know it was a good idea was because people wanted it. And in between, I don't know, 83 and 85, which coincided with a huge upsurge in entrepreneurial activity in the UK and people starting their own businesses, I was swamped and had to take on staff. So it was self-evident that it was a good idea. It's still a good idea doing other people's bookkeeping and accounting for them, because people shouldn't really be doing their own. So, and when it comes to perseverance, I did that one for 20 years. So my first model of running my own business was one project that lasted for 20 years. Okay, fair enough. During that time, I was sidetracked slightly by a chap who said I would never make any money doing that, and it was wrong. And we went into all sorts of things on the side, all of which failed. And towards the end, I bought the travel agency only in the last 2 years, but I kept my focus on it for 20 years and built it up. I didn't know until the last 6 months, because this hadn't been my intention, that I had built up something that I could sell and that had a value. But so I wasn't actually building towards that. I was just growing the business. I was managing the growth, managing the organic growth of the business, and following my nose and growing the team and doing, trying to make it better all the time and having fun and spending the money I was making. And, I didn't think of it as perseverance at the time. But I definitely think that there was value in sticking at one project for a nice long time to make it work. Now, just because it took me 20 years to achieve that the first time around doesn't mean it's needed to take me that long in subsequent businesses. However, in my current business, the coaching business, it's now 14 years old. So, major focus coaching business, 14 years old. Not growing it, we'll never sell it, but it's my main focus. So I don't know whether perseverance is the word I would use. I am self-employed by choice. And so perseverance sounds like something I have to grit my teeth and stick at. There hasn't been much of that in my life, but the fact that I've done one for 20 and one for 14 is the definition of sticking at something, I think.
So there are businesses that are evergreen, like accountancy and being a lawyer and things like that. What about things like your cleaning biz and your cafe and things? When you had the idea, did you have the ideas for those, or did people bring those ideas to you? And how did you analyse whether it was worth getting?
Yeah, good one. Okay, so we had 2 catering ventures, one with my mother, and what happened was I worked as a freelance accountant in a building on the South Bank in London a long time ago, and it didn't have any catering facilities either within walking distance or on the trading estate, and it was in Nine Elms. And I was living at home because I'd been gazumped on selling one property and buying another. So I lived at home again with my parents when I was about 28, 29 for about 9 months, and I had a car with my job, so I gave my own car to my mother, and she would go to the market and make the sandwiches, buy the cigarettes and the Diet Cokes and bring them in and sell them at lunchtime. So she needed something to do. And when I left that freelance thing, that came to an end. But she'd had enough by then anyway. The other one, the cafe on Clapham Common, a client of mine round the corner from my accountancy business where we used to buy our lunches every day said, look, I've got this opportunity to get the Bowling Green Cafe on Clapham Common, and my friend who does it on Wandsworth Common says you make thousands of pounds from cups of tea. Do you want to buy in for a share? And I bought in, and one of the other shareholders was Alistair McGowan, who's that funny comedian that does impressions. Do you know him?
Yes, I do, yeah.
It lasted a couple of years. We never made any money. I don't think we got our money back. Cleaning biz, completely different. In the year my mother died, 2005, Emma and I had been running our respective branches since 2001, 4 years. We e-mythed it. We took in a tranche of people in January 2005, and I got it completely wrong because I brought in people that I was trying to help through this medium show how easy it was to run a business. And the second time we took people in, we followed the e-myth advice, which is bring in people who you know can make it better. And so we e-mythed that, and I lost interest in that in 2010 and handed it over to Emma. And I wanted her to learn what I knew about managing a team, but she, bless her, has a completely different skill set. She's a Lord accumulator, like Steve, and you and me are creators, and creators have to be the front of something. So the reason I lost interest in it was because my role was to go to the summer party and the Christmas party, and every year we'd be fielding the same questions over and over and over and over again. We had a procedures manual. People wouldn't read it. They wouldn't do as they were told. I just had enough, really, of bending people to the task. So I gave it to Emma in the end, and she still trades the remnants of it. But the cleaning business, what happened there is the model is now outdated because it's been superseded by the app that I use for my own cleaners in London.
But do you remember, did you both buy a franchise off someone else? How did the idea for the cleaning business come along?
No, the spiv that I told you about that was always trying to make money on the side in the 20 years, he found the franchise model and copied it, and the franchise model in the UK is called Sell Clean. He copied it, and then he showed it to me, and I copied it, and then Emma and I ran it for separately. You know, I was Islington and she was Fulham. And then we realised we could replicate it. We could teach people to do it. But, you know, you can teach people to do it. But unless you're very stricty pants, which I imagine McDonald's are, you know, it's impossible to make self-employed entrepreneurs stick to the rule book.
No, I know. That's why I've never been tempted by a franchise, because the thought of having to do it their way, which was crazy, because I could have learned an awful lot of business skills while doing it that way.
Well, that's the people you've got to think about, not people like us who have ideas. You know, do you remember the Wealth Conference in that stately home in
yes, I do.
Oxfordshire? There was a girl in the front row called Ursula, I think, something like that. It began with U, Uta, it might have been. She was Germanic or Swiss or Finnish or something like that. She put her hand up and she said, what do you do, Judith, if you've got no ideas? Because we've been talking about the burden of too many ideas and how to corral an entrepreneur into sticking to something, into persevering, to use Neil's word. And I said, oh, you lucky thing. You buy a franchise, basically. You follow somebody else's idea, do as you're told. And in America, it's massive. That's the main way that people become self-employed, because they want to work for themselves. And if you buy a franchise, and the other lady I'm working with at the moment, who sells them for about £6,000, and we sold ours for that too. You know, all the difficulties are ironed out. You don't have to learn everything. You just have to go to the training, do as you're told. You have to experiment, and you have to come back, and you have to be told, yeah, you're not doing it right. If you do it like we've proved over 4 years, it'll work like a dream. So, you know, there's a type who should buy a franchise, people jobs worth really, who've lost their job through no fault of their own. They liked the job, they haven't got one anymore through redundancy or whatever it's called, downsizing. And you're in a team, there's a framework and a structure. Quite a lot of my clients crave structure. I've had a conversation already this morning about structure. Give me some structure, you know. Well, sorry, entrepreneurial life isn't about structure, really. It's about, not for us, it's not creators, it's about having the full reign of our own ideas, isn't it? But so lots of different models there, Nicola. People who stick at things mostly succeed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a shocker for this. I'm great at having ideas and getting them set up quick and half cocked even, and but I'm terrible at sticking to them. So with Artisan World, I really want to come at it more slowly, and now that the software is live, I've got something to show people, and B, I want to create simple structures that don't make me feel like I have to do everything yesterday. I want to have, like I'm going to contact 10 people today and 10 people tomorrow, and I'm going to, monitor the results, and I'm going to tweak and tune. I want to put all the stuff I've learned into action on this one. And the whole point of Artisan World, for the people who are listening, is that it hopefully will open the doors to the marketing departments. They aren't marketing departments, they're people, marketing managers or CEOs trying to be marketing people. In a new sector, market sector. So I'm looking to move my digital marketing skills into a new marketing sector. And Artisan World software is the way I perceive I can open the doors and give something of value and get a conversation going about digital marketing with an industry that is not, some of these people have got great websites, but that's pretty much it. Or they're paying someone to do the odd bit of social media 3 times a week. But again, that's pretty much it. So there is a long-term goal to this, and the short-term bit is the software. It may well be the software becomes the outcome in the end, which would be nice as a because I haven't got any property, so it'd be nice if I had a business that could be run by other people and could be left to my kids. But I want to persevere with it, and so I need to not come at it like a bull in a china shop and set up simple structures that I can follow and then assess and then tweak if necessary. But I'm worried, knowing myself, that I'll get bored. So that's why I quite wanted to talk about this persistence thing, because there was a book, wasn't there, called by Malcolm Gladwell called The Big Dip, which...
No, it's by Seth Godin. It's called The Dip, the Extraordinary Benefits of Knowing When to Quit and When to Stick. I was going to recommend that today, yeah.
Oh, well, I read it and I didn't get any insights from when to stick and when to quit from it at all. So have you read it?
A long time ago.
Yeah, I don't remember anything that was like a yardstick for how you tell whether something's working or not, and you are just...
Well, I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a clue for your new project. Because the topic is food, and because you've got Kim, and because you're making a resolution today, and we're all listening that you'll stick at it for a year, you've got quite a lot of skin in that deal.
Is that what it's down to, you think, skin in the deal?
Well, a bit. I think, if it was, say, widgets, it would wither on the vine faster than artisan food, for instance.
Yeah, that's true, because I wouldn't be interested in widgets at all, which is why I have to do a franchise.
Yeah.
I have to be mildly interested to passionate about the topic.
Well, so the only question then is, can you remain mildly interested to passionate in the topic of artisan foods for a 12-month?
I think I can combine with software, which is one of my other passions, because I do like a nice bit of software, as you know.
Okay.
So what about people listening? How do they, if they have one of those genius ideas in the shower, like we do all the time, how do they tell if it's a good enough idea to start, and if it doesn't take off like a rocket straight away, as some things do, let's face it, like your accountancy business, how do you know when a business is worth persevering with?
You've got to get some nibbles, haven't you?
Yes.
I've had a lot of conversations this week with coaches. I've got half a dozen clients who are coaches, and that's the most impossibly difficult business in the world to set up, and they are mostly despairing. And they're all good women. They're not sunshine and butterflies types. They're people who have expertises in particular areas, and they get enough nibbles, but they are few and far between, and I think keeping your spirits up in that field is quite difficult. In almost any other area, if you're doing something useful that people want, the market will tell you, I think, as long as you're not doing a lot of things that I find people do these days, which is reluctant to tell the world using social media and the internet. I'm a bit embarrassed, or I don't like asking for money, or what will my friends think, or all of those issues. Provided you can get past those. One of my clients this morning sent me a great message which said, I've got my first like on my Facebook page from a stranger. Well, hooray! We celebrate strangers in my groups because they're your clients. They're your clients. You know, people like all of us in our gang liking your page is great, but it's not what you want. You want, there you go, there's a sign. So my Facebook page has been liked by a complete stranger, which means, you're onto something. I don't know it's a small sign, but, if you could have all sorts of measurables, couldn't you? You've got to find a way to get people to pay you money soon enough and then give you testimonials and enjoy the experience for you to know there's something in it. Now, that was a two-part question. I answered the second part first. The first part was, what do you do? Well, you've got to give it enough time. You've got to show up at your desk every morning from 9 till 5 or 9 till 12 or whatever you've decided you do, and put your back into it.
And you're either doing the thing or you're marketing the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. There was several thoughts that flitted through my head there, but I was a bit distracted by the birdie in the background at your house.
Yeah, so birds are it's like David Attenborough's garden, life in my garden today. I've got foxes, squirrels, and very loud birds. Yeah, the foxes are putting their paws on my window ledge and peering in through my open window.
Really? That must be a bit disconcerting.
It's very disconcerting, given that they're riddled with fleas and all sorts of unpleasantness. But anyway, the point is, it's a loud bird today. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I like a nice bird. Okay, so you have the idea. Okay, so one of my things is about lean.
But let me tell you, with this artisan food,
yeah,
don't give up. Don't give up, and don't take anything else. That's the answer. I mean, not your business, but anybody's business. Don't give up. Stick at it. Make it work.
And also there are certain things you can do. Reading Getting to Plan B and then the Lean Startup was a monster help for me psychologically, because it meant that it really drummed it home to me that nobody knows what's a good business idea. What's a good business idea for you might not be for someone else. And the idea is to get the minimum viable version of your business up and running and in front of complete strangers, like you say, because it's only by doing that you'll work out if there's any hint of an interest whatsoever. And the other thing that you get by talking to people about your business, and you can only do that when you've got something to show someone, even if it's a fake website or a Facebook page, is that people will start to say things like, oh, that's a good idea, I'd really like it if it did this. And if enough people say, I'd really like it if it did that, then you might want to pivot a bit to do that, or you might want to add that on to this. And that's one of the things that Dane and I can't remember the other chap, but in the foundation in America, they run a yearly coaching program that teaches people how to talk to people and how to ask and uncover everyday pains in people's businesses, which is how I came up with the idea for my software, because I was talking to my mate and she told me about an everyday pain in her business. And then go and show it to enough people and they say, they'll say, yeah, it's good, but it needs this. And then you can either add this on, or you can think that's iteration 2. I'll come back to that next time round. So
yes.
So yeah,
I think there's a good point you're making there. Is ask the audience. I would not be swayed by the well-meaning opinions of family and friends.
No, because A, they're probably not business people, and B, they're not your customers.
No, and you can't keep chopping and changing to suit everybody else all of the time. If you've got a core idea, stick to your guns.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a list of things that Kim's told me that needed to be changed immediately to make it usable on an iPad, which is where a lot of people will be using it. And then I've got another little wish list of things, which I will, when we do the next big go round with the software, that's nice to have and essential to have. I think that's the thing. But try and get a minimum viable version of your business out to the world where people can give you feedback. And like you say, try and get over all the psychological hurdles that stand in the way of you doing that, because until something's out there, until there's a website, until there's a Facebook page, until there's a Twitter, even Twitter accounts nowadays, but until there's something people can give you feedback on, if there's a deafening silence, you've then also got to ask yourself, am I doing enough? Am I getting this in front of enough people to get feedback? Because a lot of people mistake deafening silence for disinterest, but actually it's just a lack of marketing, isn't it?
Well, I've had a very good example of that in the last week, where one of my clients put out a brilliant idea, actually, all over Facebook, and there was no response. But when she started tagging people, they said, oh, yeah, that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, because they hadn't actually seen it the first time round.
No, that's right. Yeah. Make sure people have seen it. Get it under people's noses. Show it to them. Offer it to them. Risk being rejected, and follow the new podcast meme, which is we're not attached to the outcome. Show it to people. Great if they like it. Great if they don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay. So, and then when you feel convinced you've got a good idea and you've shown it to enough people and had enough interest that you're encouraged, then that's where the perseverance comes in, I think, that Neil was talking about, because it might well be that you try one method of marketing it and it doesn't work. For example, I've been running Facebook ads and I'm getting lots of clicks, but no, I had one registration. I think I put some opt-ins in front of the registrations now because people were registering and then they weren't listing their items. So now I've put an opt-in in front of the registration because I want to be able to educate people in a series of emails before, and to encourage them to go back to list their items. So if you're not getting response at one stage of your marketing process, think, could I put a little educational bit in front of that? And I've completely lost where I'm going with this, but it was something along the lines, Neil and perseverance, right. So when he started this this latest business that he's just about to sell, which is getting people, it's a franchise, and people buy into the franchise of going out to see people in their homes who want a will and who don't want to go and pay a solicitor to do it and perhaps don't have time. Anyway, the details are irrelevant. He built it very, very quickly, selling the idea of doing this and the process of doing this to people who want to buy a franchise in the same way people wanted to buy the cleaning biz franchise. And he found that the first few methods he tried of marketing it fell flat on its face. Now, he could have given up at that point, but he just realised that he had to find the method of marketing that was going to work. He told the story in the interview we did with him, wasn't it, where he went to his father-in-law's and he found out his father-in-law was so thrilled with the idea that you could order DVDs and they would post them to you, and when you'd watch the film you could send them back. which we all found hilarious because there's Netflix and there's YouTube and there's Amazon Video and everything now, but his father-in-law was still ordering DVDs, and it just opened his eyes to the fact that his target market wasn't
his target market was never going to attend a webinar.
They weren't going to attend a seminar. They weren't on
because they're still using DVDs.
Yeah, exactly. And my target market is a creative person like Kim, who's very time pushed because she's also a hairdresser and she has a life, and she uses an iPad. So I had to adjust the software to take into account that people are not sitting on a 15-inch monitor iMac looking at this software. They're actually on an iPad or a mobile phone. It's got to work.
What makes me sad about that story is that Zoltan didn't think about that, because that's his job as far as I'm concerned.
It is, but you've got to remember that software developers are very literal. They will literally do what you tell them.
They never even look at things through other browsers either. They're so annoying.
I know, but the other thing is that the good thing about that is that he would never in a million years think I could take that idea and run with it, because he's not a marketing person, and that's what it takes to make an idea work. So so I don't feel cross with it. I felt a bit mildly cross with him about the mobile navigation, but it's on there now. And to be honest, I should have given him a better brief. I was very big picture. I was not very detailed. I didn't think it through because I'm not a great planner, and I could have done a better job of giving him a proper brief. And I was advised in James Schramko's Superfast Business Forum about the kind of things I should have told him and the kind of questions he should have asked, and so I'll know better for next time. Yeah. But perseverance, so I'm not going to start anything new for the next year. And if you hear me talking about anything new on this, then you've got to slap me down, okay?
Well, I think going back to my accountancy business, and certainly with my coaching business, and the majority of my clients' businesses, although you've described, focusing on this for 12 months, in a real world business, not to say that yours isn't, but in a real world business, I would say 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely, because you have to turn up and do it, don't you? And it takes that.
Yeah, you do, and you have to put one person working on their own from home has to put in enough quantum of work for it to begin to be out there. So I was talking to one of my coaching clients this morning. She said, and I've had a referral. And of course, she's in business long enough now that she's had a client go through her process, have a significant experience, have a break, then accidentally bump into somebody who could use it and make a referral. Now, if we're all looking too eagerly for signs that it's working right at the beginning, you're not in business long enough to get referrals.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing is, I'm working full time on this, so my 1 year is 3 years of anyone else's time who's got a family and who only has 2 hours a week or 2 to 10 hours a week to work on it. I'll be doing, at least 5 hours a day. So
I think be there long. My advice to the listener is be there long enough for the world to catch on, and do your best to give them the best opportunities of doing that.
Yeah. And the other
Don't
thing
be a secret.
And the other thing in the areas that I'm going to struggle to persevere with is going to be the content marketing of it. So I've got to get Dan's book out again, Content Machine, and work through it and create a system to ensure that content happens on that website. Otherwise, it ain't going to happen. And so I think knowing yourself and knowing your limitations and all of that, I think then you can set up systems to overcome your limitations instead of beating yourself up for being useless at certain things.
I think that's a good theory, Nicola.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be putting it into practice and reporting back.
Okay.
All right, so that's a good one. My word of the week, time. Because it ticks on, doesn't it? It ticks on relentlessly, and it helps and heals, and perseverance takes time. So that's my word of the week.
Okay.
What to say about it? It's self-evident.
Yeah, indeed. All right. So, project updates. I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of my feelings post-summit.
Okay.
2 11-hour days was too long, not just for us, but for the listener as well. I think if we ever did it again, 5 calls a day rather than 9 would be plenty, 3 before lunch and 2 afterwards. But it makes the product less compelling. So the weekend is more manageable for the listener and for you and I, but the product is less compelling if we've only got 10 recordings to sell rather than 18. What else do I know about this? We've got 2 jobs to go. We've got to write a sales page and market the sales page, I think. And I'll tell you what my overall, the best thing that happened to me in the whole of the summit was that the momentum of the effort we put into the 10 weeks and the busyness and the visibility has taken my eye off my need to market my own business, and lots of new clients have just turned up anyway. And that's what I teach. Okay. That's what I teach my clients is if you're engaged in work you love, doing something useful by way of service to other people, you'll be attractive.
Yeah, and that's, I heard Gary Vee say it again this morning. He said something, he was talking to a guy called Frederick, who's a Swedish gay real estate agent in New York. And Frederick is, he's brilliant. He's so engaging, and he's very good looking. But anyway, he only does Instagram, and he also has a television show that Gary Vee's wife watches late at night. And he got the television show on the back of his Instagram account, and he's the number 1 real estate agent in New York now. And Gary Vee was saying specifically that he was talking to Frederick, and he was saying, so what is it that gets you the listings? And Frederick says, who knows? He said, I do a wide variety of things. Obviously, the television show came from the Instagram account. I started the Instagram account because I'm a very visual person. I like pictures, and I thought it might be a good idea to share pictures of listings. And he said, but I can't track specifically which of my social media activities brings me the listings. He said, all we know is that some magic happens when you're out there and sharing stuff.
Absolutely right. That's exactly what I'm saying. And I try to encourage all my clients to do this, and they don't believe me. Some of them do it, some of them don't do it. They don't get it, which is, what's your thing you love? Get out there doing it. Be doing it, because when you're doing it, you'll draw stuff to you from the kinetic energy of being in momentum.
Yeah, totally. And I've really got to think about this now, because the thing that Summit gave me was a structure. We every week we had 3 people to market. I had a structure of what I was going to do on Snapchat with them, what I was going to do on Instagram with them, what I was going to do on my blog with them. So now I've really got to sit and make a structure for myself for the next year of content and social media marketing for Artisan World. And I know that if I do that, something magical will happen, and if I don't do it, nothing will happen. So that's very cool. The thing I really enjoyed about it was being able to introduce you to some of the people that I think a lot about, and vice versa. We both got to know people that we wouldn't have got to know normally, and I love the fact that it definitely raised our status a bit. People did think more of us for having done it. Not just, our raving fans, bless them, you know who you are. I think it did definitely open up the the world a bit to the podcast, and that has been reflected in greater podcast downloads throughout this marketing process. So I'll be interested to see what happens now, whether the podcast download numbers drop a bit, or if they maintain the momentum and people keep listening. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
And it caused you to have a genius idea over the weekend, which we're not ready to reveal yet. You remember I had an idea about keeping the interviews going, and you've actually improved that idea. So one of our goals was that it would do good for the podcast, and I think one way or another it will do good for the podcast.
Yeah, it already has in download numbers, so that's awesome. So I'm in that stage where you've just had a baby and you say never again.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So am I. And it's very much like having a baby. Yeah. And to be honest, I'm not sure I'll ever change my mind about that. But I think it was very worthwhile. I really do think it was worthwhile doing in many different ways. If we play our cards right, and we don't need to rush, but if we play our cards right on the last 2 jobs we've got to do, and I know you're busy, but we get those done in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we've got a fantastic evergreen product.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to use it, both of us, as bonuses for things.
Yeah, that's very true. I've been thinking about the whole sales page thing, because obviously I've just gone in and butchered the existing sales page to be not date orientated. But coming at a sales page, I've been asking for advice on some forums I'm in, and there is a thing about a compelling offer that I've never felt I've mastered, and I thought it might be useful to talk through the 5 elements of a compelling offer next week as a client challenge of the week.
Yes, let me write it down. 5 elements
of a compelling offer.
Okay.
Because unless you've got a compelling offer, you can't write a sales page.
Right, in that case, we probably shouldn't write our sales letter until after next week's recording.
Okay. Well, we could be working on our compelling.
We could. You did say that you would that you had a product that we can follow. I don't know if you can hook me up with that, but I'm prepared to start. I'm prepared to do the first draft.
I did used to have a product a long time ago, but I don't use it now. But there is a format. Okay. There is a format for writing a sales page.
Okay. In that case, I will just Google, and I think I might have it somewhere from when you sent it before. I don't know how.
No, I've got a Justin Brooke format, which is particularly good. The other thing is,
do you know where to find it?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'll send it to you afterwards. The other thing about it, we'll probably find we've got most of the content already because we've created quite a lot of content for this.
I think that's true, and it's time for me to remind you that, and please don't explain it to me because it just balls the knickers off me, but I don't understand the difference between a feature and a benefit, and I don't want to know, but that thing always foxes me with the sales letter. But I like writing sales letters as it happens, and I really think this product is great, and if we can get that energy into there, and if we can market it, we've monetized our podcast, which is important to me because we both put a lot of effort into this every week.
Yeah.
And whilst we're saying that, I would just like to thank the people who bought the recordings as a way of remunerating us for that effort.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lovely gesture of support, which we deeply appreciate.
Any more on that topic?
No, I think I've no. That's project updates. I mean, I think I've sort of covered what I'm doing at the moment as well. So
you have. Tell me who or what's impressed you, because I've got a deeply heartwarming story to end the show with today.
Lovely. Gusto. You know the thing where you get your food.
Yes, you said last week you were going to get your food delivered. Is it working?
It's not only working. We are really, really impressed with it. Sarah wanted to eat earlier, so I'm stopping work about 5 or 6, and we're both having fun trying to read the instructions. For some reason, they've written the instructions with pictures along the top of a card, and then you go down to the bottom row along, and it's deeply counterintuitive to me. My brain thinks it should be top left box, bottom left box, next box top, right, and then it should go in a zigzag, for my brain says. So I keep trying to do the instructions to cook these things. I'm quite an experienced cook, actually, and I'm not bad at cooking, but following these instructions is foxing me a lot. But the food is really, really good. They just deliver what you need and no more, which is fantastic, because you don't have to go around the shops and buy whole packets of things. For example, what did we have yesterday? We had some sort of white fish with lemon and olive oil and dill and smashed potatoes, beans and runner beans. and they just delivered a small packet of dill, which was just enough to cook that dish. So you don't have to do any weighing, any thinking, any shopping, any deciding on the meal. It's absolutely brilliant. I'm actually really looking forward to dinners. What a great business idea. I do not know how they can make money unless they're going to put the prices up at some point, because it's essentially costing £5 a head per meal, and it comes to you all weighed out, all packaged up. It's astonishingly good, and it's delicious.
Good.
The recipes
Good.
Yeah.
I'm pleased.
You're pleased we're getting fed regularly.
I'm pleased you're getting healthy variety food. Yes.
Well, that's the thing, is you'd never sit and pick 5 such disparate recipes if you were doing it yourself.
No, because you tend to stick to your same ones, don't you, when you're doing it yourself? Yeah,
but it's absolutely exciting to have a new thing to eat every night, and following the recipe cards is funny, and it all fits on a fridge, a shelf in the fridge. When it all comes, it's amazing. There you go. That's my enthusiasm for the week.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you about a miraculous happening yesterday. On Monday, my friend Bianca came round, and our goal was to get Mitzi into her carrying box.
Yeah.
So that a man who was charging me 90-something quid to come from North London to collect her, to drive her to her new home in Buckinghamshire, he phoned to say terrible traffic in the West End because of the rain. I'm running 15 minutes late. Then I had to ring him back and say, I'm sorry, we've let her escape out through the locked cat flap. You've got to cancel today. He rebated me £39. But yesterday morning, so Bianca said she could come again on 1 o'clock on Saturday after Pilates. And to be honest with you, I wasn't any more convinced that she and I could get her in the box a second time round than the first time round. And given that we can't guarantee that, you can't book the transport to carry her. So I said she was supposed to be delivered on Monday, which was the 11th birthday of the daughter in the household where she's going to her new forever home.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to write and say, I'm so sorry, she's not going to be delivered on your daughter's birthday. And the message came back the next day saying, I'll come over and fetch her today because the phone we bought her for her birthday wasn't working. So she had a bad birthday. Anyway, cut a long story short, I had a memory when I got up yesterday morning that on a newsletter, this is an important thing, either a newsletter or the website of the vets, I'd seen a recommended taxi firm that would carry your pet to and from the vet. So I phoned the vets and said, I think I've got a vague memory. I've seen this on your website and in your newsletters. What's the recommended local firm of taxis that you use that will take cats? Because not dogs, not everybody wants animals in their car in case they puke or pee or whatever. Anyway, she gave me 2 numbers and I phoned the first one. I'm going to big them up now. Safe Cars of Streatham Hill. A man answered the phone and I said, look, this is what I'm trying to achieve. I'm struggling to get my cat into a box to send her up to Denham in Buckinghamshire. And so I can't book a taxi by appointment, but if we're able to get her into the box at 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon and I phone you, would you be willing to drive her to Denham in Buckinghamshire? And he said, well, I live in High Wycombe and I'm just checking off my night shift as being the controller in this taxi firm now. High Wycombe is next door to Denham. Shall I come round now? We'll get her in the box together and I'll drive her for you. And if we're successful, the normal fee for that is 60 quid, but since I'm going home, I'll do it for you for 40.
Oh my God.
John came round, we got her in the box, and he took her over yesterday. And the little girl has sent a picture and a message saying, I love Mitzi. It's the best birthday present I've ever had.
Oh, can I just backtrack a little bit? And then we'll come back to marvel at the lovely John. How much did she get out of a locked cat flap?
Because of desperation. God, so the cat flap, the cat flap is a little circular, squared off thing with 4 corners, and the lock is the bottom right-hand corner. It locks the bottom right-hand corner and the top 2 corners, but the bottom left-hand corner is a bit iffy, to be honest.
Yeah.
And she squished out of it before when the vet came last year, so I knew there was that potential. But anyway, cut a long story short, John on the phone said, you sound like a nice woman. I love cats. Can't we tempt her in the box together? And I said, well, you can come round and have a go. So he came round and he had a go. We got her in the box, and then we sat down and we had a glass of water. It turned out to be a bit of a computer expert, so we talked about Macs for about half an hour. He set off towards Tracy's with the cat, and he texted Tracy on the way. He rang me up last night when he got onto shift to say, oh, she's gone to a lovely new home. That woman that's got her is very nice. The house she's living in is very nice, which I already knew, both of those facts. But it was nice of him to call me. I mean, what a kind man. That's why kindness is my word of the week, because He's a controller in a taxi firm, which means he answers the phone. Coincidentally, he happens to live in High Wycombe, which is absolutely bloody miles away from here.
Yeah, it's a miracle.
An hour so it's a miracle. He commutes to his job. He liked the sound of me on the phone. He likes cats. He just was a kind man who helps people. And more importantly, he solved a problem. I kept saying to him, I'm so happy, I'm so happy, I'm so happy, because this was making me quite frantic, the thought of, I couldn't get a guarantee to get her into the box and deliver her, as promised, and that was upsetting me. But I don't know this man from Adam, or me. He got the gist of me over the phone. He came straight round. He solved it. I mean, he was knackered because he'd done his night shift. He drove her home, delivered her, went to bed, got up, came back to work, phoned me to tell me it was all right. He left his hat behind, which I then delivered back to his shop while he was, But the point is, what a lovely reciprocal. If only I'd known he existed all of the time I lived here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a real magical alignment of the heavens.
I've bigged up Safe Cars on my Facebook page this morning, and I've gone onto the vet's Facebook page, and I've left a message there as well, because when I was a child, people like this existed in abundance.
Yeah.
And this was a lovely old-fashioned man. I told him I was going to live in the Caribbean. He said, where? And he said he was from Grenada originally, I think. So we had a lot in common.
I'm going to ask you a question now, which will leave our podcast listeners on tenterhooks. Was he cute, and can you practice your French flirting techniques on him?
He's a very nice man. I have no plan to do either of those two things.
And on that note, we'll leave our listeners agog for more next week. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Okay, see you soon. Bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.
Gotta take it on.